Hi, AJ Hartley here, novelist, Shakespeare professor, model railway enthusiast, among a lot of other things. And Christmas and New Year brought some new stuff. And as you can see, I'm sitting in total chaos. One of the things that I got was a brand new locomotive, HO scale locomotive, model of the Mallard, which I have wanted since I was a kid. I've never owned it. Mallard, obviously, it was a design by Sir Nigel Gresley, who also designed the Flying Scotsman, but the Mallard has that wind tunnel shaped aerodynamic front, which is part of what allowed it to be fast, and specifically the fastest steam locomotive ever recorded. In 1938, it established the world steam speed record at 126 miles an hour. Amtrak is still trying to catch up. And the train was running fine, but then I discovered that it was persistently having a problem in this area over here. The track goes in through this tunnel, it goes around there, and it comes out here. So it's quite a tight turn, and the engine was derailing inside the tunnel, coming out here with the front bogies out of alignment. It was then coming off the track. So initially I assumed that the problem was in this circuit here, right? Because this part of the track is quite a tight turn, this semicircle of the loop. But you know, the product description for the Mallard says that its turning radius is about 430 something millimeters, so that's, call it 44 centimeters radius, so 88 centimeters in diameter. 88 centimeters is just short of a yard, and if you measure this, the track runs all the way up against that wall, it comes out here. So it's about the length of this, 48 inches long. So, you know, there's over a foot extra. So it occurred to me that maybe the problem wasn't this turn. The problem that I had, of course, is access, both in terms of visibility and simply in terms of reaching in and fixing stuff. I built this layout a long time ago, and it wasn't particularly well designed in certain key respects. And one of the respects was that there were a lot of places that were very hard to reach. So in order to do this, I had to lift out a lot of the pieces that I had built to be removable in order to get access, just to see what was going on. So this entire section here, which is my canal and waterfront, which sits in here, had to lift out so that I can get in here. That was not so bad because there's no track on it. So it was built to be a removable section, just to give me a little closer. The hull itself was more difficult, but I did have sections that I could lift out and remove so that I could see inside. But when I could see inside, I was still struggling to reach in, and partly because there were a lot of structural supports, vertical beams and such, that were in there that were holding up the hill or holding up this higher track that runs through there as well. So I had to make some decisions about how much of this stuff could be removed so that I could at least see what was going on and figure out the problem. It turns out, of course, because when I was building this, I was put in these vertical pieces, these structural supports, which I then covered with glued pieces of wood to provide spars, styrofoam, or paper mache, or plaster cloth, right? The kind of cloth that it's impregnated with plaster, you moisten it and it takes the shape of the thing and then it goes hard. So it seemed like, in fact, a lot of the structure of the thing was perfectly fine without all these vertical pieces inside that prevented me from getting access. So I figured, you know, at this point, it's more important that the thing actually works than that it looks pretty. So I took out the structural supports on the assumption that if the whole thing became unstable, I would have to then re-rig it inside. It turns out that actually wasn't necessary. That most of these supports were not really doing anything anymore. They provided the framework, but the stuff that I had applied over the top was now rigid enough for it to sit quite happily by itself. So I'll patch all this up later on. But in removing those internal supports, I could then see what was going on. And what I did was basically use my phone, put inside with the light on, and take shots, photographs and video of the train running through so that I could see exactly where the issue was. And what became clear is that the problem's not over there. The derailment was happening over here. And again, because of the way I built this when I first laid out the design of the layout, I was trying to hug the walls, trying to create the maximum amount of running space that the room would allow. So as it goes through this tunnel, it continued to go back towards the wall and then curved quite sharply that way. And that's where the problem was. Now, a lot of my other locomotives would handle it okay because they have bogies like this one, for example. You know, little locos that have separate trucks and are better for navigating tight corners. The Mallard has 3 large rigid drive wheels and a separate bogie at the back, which is also locked in place. So a couple of flexible wheels at the front, but the rest is then rigid. So you've got a length of whatever it is, 6 inches, which has no flexibility at all. So when it's presented with a tight corner, it's going to lock. It's going to have a difficulty. And one of the things that I discovered when I was taking shots of it, when I ran it slowly through, and I could see that the front bogies of the engine were actually lifting right off the track. We've got a slight variation in elevation here between this track and where it comes out over there, but that was not enough to account for the bogies lifting like that. That was about the tightness of the track. So basically what I did was I made a cut here in this piece of flexible track. This is actually slightly shortened, but I removed maybe 4 inches of track. And then instead of driving all the way into that corner and cutting back, I simply pulled it this way. So I took out a lot of that curve. So it's a much more diagonal track here now, running through here. And that meant, of course, having to rebuild the track support, move those out of position to create a new road bed for the track to run through. In the process, I had to remove the support for this upper line, and then I built a new bracket which would slide under the existing line, sort of a C-shape bracket that would give me plenty of room so that I wouldn't hit it up from the lower track, but it would support the upper track going through. And that seems to have solved the problem. I now don't have an issue with it. Well, that didn't work at all. I fixed, I thought, the track at both ends under the hill and glued the track in place, soldered the joints, and then when I started running the train again, the derailment was back because the track hadn't stuck in precisely the spot that I wanted it. The core problem is that I just can't get access to the joint on the far side accurately enough, particularly for soldering. And I can't, so there's a kink in the point where the rails connect and it's throwing the track off. So I had no choice but to rip the entire hill out and it'll have to be redone. So it looks like that. Shouldn't be this hard. At least with the hill removed, you can see the problem. You can see here the track of where the line was running before, and it was going over there and then curving hard to join that piece over there. This is not a bad angle. I can push that over a little bit. I'm going to move this tunnel so that instead of leading this way, it's clearly more canted this way, and then I'll use the curve. I'll rebuild these track support pieces under here and reconnect over there, bring that track a little bit, start the curve earlier, and run this one more, so that hopefully I can get a decent connection, and we'll see how it goes. So finally, it's done. It took way longer than I thought it was going to. I thought it was, you know, an hour's work, and it finished up taking about 2 weeks in various chunks of time and experimentation. And I learned a few things along the way, including that I always need to make sure that my line is fully accessible and not allow the scenery to get so completely in the way that I'm then really reluctant to remove it. But yeah, it's done. Everything is back in place. I have to sort of remodel a tunnel mouth there and just clean up, but everything is running, which is cool because now I can turn my attention to the N-gauge Japanese railway, which is what I had been wanting to work on, because I have some new stuff for that, and I want to spend a little more time showing how that evolves. So yeah, so that's where I am at the moment. There'll be more to do on the HO scale layout, but for now I'm taking a break. So that's it. As ever, please like, comment, subscribe, check out my books, check out my Patreon page. They didn't sign on for model railways, but they've been supportive all the same, so I appreciate that. And I will talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.